You wake up upside down. Smoke is drifting sideways through torn metal, and the first thing you notice isn't pain, it's silence. No engines, no screaming, nothing except a slow tick of cooling metal somewhere behind your seat. Your seatbelt is still buckled. You are still strapped in. The plane you were on 20 minutes ago is now scattered across several hundred yards of wilderness, and somehow, impossibly, you are alive inside a piece of it. Actually, no. Forget the smoke and the silence for a second, because that's not actually the dangerous part. That's the part your brain is built for, the adrenaline spike, the fight-or-flight jolt that gets you moving. The dangerous part starts about 6 hours from now, when the adrenaline drains out of your system and you're still sitting in the wreckage of a plane and nobody has come. So here's the real question, and it's about to sound completely insane. What actually determines whether you live through this isn't the crash. It's not the fire or the fall or the impact. Statistically, if you're reading this, you already survived the part that kills most people. The real fight is what happens in the hours and days after, when the plane is gone and it's just you. And it turns out human beings have done this exact thing before in wildly different corners of the planet and left behind a very specific playbook for what works. On Christmas Eve 1971, a 17-year-old named Juliane Koepcke was flying over the Peruvian Amazon when her plane was struck by lightning and broke apart mid-air. She fell 2 miles still strapped into her seat and landed in the rainforest canopy alive. She had a broken collarbone, a gashed arm, and one working eye. She also had something almost nobody else on that flight had. She'd grown up at a research station in that exact jungle, and her father, a biologist, had drilled one rule into her. If you're lost near water, you follow it downstream because downstream leads to people. She found a trickle, then a stream, then a river, and she followed it for 9 days, wading through water she knew might hide Cayman because the alternative was standing still. She was right. The river led her to a logging camp, and she survived. 10 months later, on October 13, 1972, a plane carrying a Uruguayan rugby team crashed into the Andes at over 11,000 feet. 16 people survived the impact into a mountain range with almost no food, no rescue signal reaching them, and temperatures that dropped below -20 at night. They lasted 72 days. They melted snow for water. They rationed chocolate bars into crumbs. And eventually, when the food ran out completely, they made the decision to eat the bodies of passengers who hadn't survived just to keep functioning. 2 of them, Nando Parado and Roberto Canessa, then did something that still gets studied by mountaineers today. With no climbing gear, no map, and no training, they hiked 10 days through the Andes to find help. Because they'd calculated that waiting any longer meant everyone died. They were right too. In 1972, a Yugoslav flight attendant named Vesna Vulović was on a plane that exploded at 33,000 feet. She fell that entire distance still lodged inside a section of the fuselage and landed on a snow-covered, tree-lined mountainside in Czechoslovakia. The snow and the angle of the slope absorbed enough of the impact that she survived, and a local villager named Bruno Honka, a former army medic, found her and kept her alive until rescue arrived. To this day, she holds the record for surviving the highest fall without a parachute, and it happened because a chain of small, unrelated things went right. And in 2009, a 12-year-old girl named Bahia Bakari was the sole survivor when a flight went down in the ocean off the Comoros Islands. She couldn't swim well. She clung to a piece of wreckage in open water for more than 9 hours in the dark before a fishing boat found her. She said afterward that she just kept telling herself to hold on a little longer, over and over, because the alternative was letting go. Sound familiar? Every single one of those survivors did the same 3 things, and none of it was luck dressed up as skill. They found water or trusted it, because water has led people to safety since before anyone was writing anything down. Every culture with a survival tradition, from Amazonian tribes to Arctic hunters, teaches the same rule Koepcke's father taught her. Moving water leads to people, so follow it instead of guessing. They rationed instead of panicking, stretching what little they had because a slow decline beats a fast collapse. And they gave themselves a job, a next physical task, because the mind that's counting steps or melting snow doesn't have room left to spiral. Relax a little, though, because the odds are genuinely better than the movies want you to believe. The FAA has tracked plane accidents in the U.S. for decades, and in accidents serious enough to be studied, over 95% of the people on board survive. Crashes that look catastrophic on the news are mechanically usually far more survivable than they appear, because modern aircraft are built to absorb impact and slow you down before you ever feel the worst of it. Here's the twist, though. The plane is often the safest place you'll be all day. Once you're out of the wreckage, exposure becomes the real opponent. Cold at altitude, dehydration in the heat, infection from a cut you didn't even notice. The crash is a single violent event that's over in seconds. What actually kills people afterward is a slow leak, hours and days of small decisions compounding, while help is somewhere out there trying to find you. You're back in the wreckage now, upside down, smoke drifting sideways, that same ringing silence pressing in. Except this time, you know what the ticking metal actually means, and you know the fire and the fall were never the real test. The real test is what you do in the next 6 hours, and the 6 after that, and the 6 after that, one small decision at a time, exactly like every person who's ever walked out of wreckage before you. The crash was never the story. The walking out was walking out.